We got 30 seconds.
Sucks to be me. All right, cool. Thanks.
Yeah.
How do I go back and will that mess everything up? Oh, here we go. Okay, I'll try.
10 seconds.
Thank you, Jesse.
There is no try. Do or do not.
Yes. Smart you are.
2 seconds.
That's right. It's the morning show right here on ABC News Radio, KMET 1490 AM. Joining our live stream audience there, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube Live, LinkedIn, and of course, our good friends at Alexa. Don't forget Apple TV as well. Glad to have you with us on today's show. We got lots to talk about, including some tech gear. Super excited about that. Of course, a lot of people going, well, what do I do next around the corner when it comes to the future as well? We're going to have a futurist here, which I'm always excited to talk to futurists because futurists like know stuff that you're like, are you psychic or do you just know stuff? And I think it's a combination of both. I don't know. We're going to have with us a little bit around the corner, Rebecca D. Costa, who's an American sociobiologist and futurist. She's the preeminent global expert on the subject of fast adaptation and recipient of the prestigious Edward O. Wilson Biodiversity Technology Award. Her career spans 4 decades of working with founders, key executives, and venture capitalists in Silicon Valley. Her first book, The Watchman's Rattle, A Radical New Theory of Collapse, was an international bestseller. Her follow-on book, titled On the Verge, was introduced in 2017 to critical acclaim. It went to Amazon's #1 new business releases. She's worked on the New York Times, Washington Post, USA Today, San Francisco Chronicle, The Guardian, and much, much more. So we're going to have her a little bit later on talk about some of the things and where things are going, especially in the future. I love to talk about futuristic stuff, future technology, science, and especially because coming up around the corner, obviously we're going to be talking about some cool products that are here and now, but I like to think about what's beyond tomorrow, right? Because you've always got things that you could look forward to. And I think where we're at in the stream of time, a lot of people are kind of upset, mad, and angry at where we are in the stream of time, rather than advancing forward and looking like, you know what? The future's not so bleak. In fact, there's some cool stuff that you could participate in right now, and you could actually have some fun with. Speaking of which, I know Mr. Jesse Sanchez is going to hopefully join the team over here in virtual reality land. But I understand, Jesse, you got some entertainment news.
Yeah, actually, I read this story yesterday. It kind of blew my mind because we were talking about Wonder Woman being released on the same day theatrically on HBO Max.
Yeah.
And so they kind of, WB and HBO Max kind of took that and ran with it. So next year, a lot of the big movies are going straight to HBO Max, like Dune, Matrix 4, The Suicide Squad, Godzilla vs. Kong. All of those are going to HBO Max the same day as theatrical release. And I know a lot of theater owners are probably mad, but you know what? Theaters are closed, so what are they going to do?
I agree with that, and I agree that what you said is so true. We talked about this last month when we were talking about Wonder Woman being released in theaters. I don't know that that's going to happen. I will say this is a great opportunity for drive-ins to go next level and take advantage of the ability to have people, meet in their cars. You and I were talking about, even if it's cold in your area. I mean, certain areas you just can't do it, right? Like in Canada, where they're like 20 degrees, but here, at least in Southern California, in certain parts of, the world, I would imagine you could pull up your cool big screen device. Some people put a projector out in the backyard or in the house, right? How inexpensive are projectors now than what they used to be? And you could get a pretty big screen version in your living room. I know we used to do that with, the family in the past, and they were fun evenings. You pull it up, just make it go as far back as possible. Now you got a big screen in the living room. Everybody pulls out their comforters, their blankets, and they just powwow around there or the backyard but right now that's not really the time. So I think if people do that with HBO Max, you can make it a fun event. What do you think?
Yeah, I think you can make it a fun event. It'd be awesome. It'd be awesome too if HBO Max has some like VR thing, like you said, with that big theater or big movie, whatever it was.
Big screen.
Yeah, there you go, big screen. This way, all of us can watch, Wonder Woman or all of these movies in big screen, since we can't go to the theaters at the moment.
Yeah, I really do. I want to get big screen on. I've already sent an email out to them, and hopefully we could get them on the show. We are getting VR Glove on the show next week, so we're going to show some cool technology in VR. Speaking of technology, it's that time for our good friends over there at Prevost Partners. Always knowing what's new, what's latest and greatest, and of course, what is especially important. We got Joel Prevost over there. Good morning. Welcome to the show, Joel.
Morning, Aaron. Good to be back.
Yeah, look, Joel, obviously the question I have of the day, what's worth buying for the holidays?
Well, tons of stuff as usual. And, just hearing you guys talk about the movie theater setup, it's something that I've done in my basement for a long time, but also now outside. And I can't recommend that enough. It's even in cold weather like Minnesota, where we are, we've been having a fairly mild fall into winter, and we've been able to sit around the fire pit. We hang a big sheet on the side of the house, and we have a mini projector out there, and it's fantastic. It's made for some really fun evenings, especially leading into the holidays. So I totally agree, and taking it in VR is a whole nother level. So fun to hear you guys talk about that, and I'm all in on that as well. So
you gotta let me know what your Steam what is it? I'm still trying to get the lingo. Your Steam username, so I can add you as a friend, and then we can go watch the movies.
Yeah, I'll get it set up. We'll talk about that. So,
awesome.
But if you're not in the market for something that level, or you're looking for something less screen related, because I know everybody's on iPads and stuff for school and for work right now. So there's some really good tech stuff out there for your kids. In Sphero, it's SPHERO is a good source for like those science, technology, engineering type gifts or toys. One that I'll throw out there today, it's called the Sphero Spectrums, and so they're little rings that you put on your fingers, and they respond to color. So that way, kids can kind of make their world music, and by tapping different colors, they respond differently with different sounds, and allows them to create music and be creative with that. And that's, an affordable, it's less than $50 type tech gift, but it gets them away from looking at an iPad, and, it invokes some creativity. So they're a good source for other things like that, but that's one that's kind of fun, easy to understand, and could be a really good holiday a gift for somebody if you're looking for something right now that's kind of a gadget, but also not just passively taking in entertainment. So it's a good interactive thing.
Very cool. I first of all, I'm looking at it right here, and I guess the best way to describe it is you have like a thing around your finger, right? And then you just kind of like move it left or right. How does that work exactly?
Yeah, it's like a drum. So it's like on your finger, but you tap the pads that are different colors with your finger that has that ring on it. And then as that pad hits a different color, it changes the sound. And so you can basically like play drums, but with different tones based on the color. So they can kind of make color the music. And so it takes their brain to start thinking, okay, when I hit red, it sounds like this. When I hit blue, it sounds like this. So now I can create different sounds with this ring on my finger. And really the opportunities are endless in terms of what sounds they come up with. And just the understanding of how that's working is a next level thing for kids who are trying to understand coding and different things that they might want to get into. It starts to put their mind in the set, and put them in the mindset that it's not just a simple tool. There can be a lot of things created through technology that if this, then that, right?
Yeah.
In this case, it's color.
Got it. Okay. So that's pretty cool. AirPods. I got a couple, but I always lose them. So I don't know. Maybe you got something worth sharing that we can't lose.
We can talk about that too, but the one thing I've got is there's a cool case called the Zen Pod, and maybe you've seen it before, but it's really an attractive case for your AirPods, and you might not think you really need a case for your AirPods, but it is really cool. There's a black version and a tan version. It's a leather case, and it wraps around the AirPod case really well. And then it actually has a fidget spinner on it. For those of us who can't sit still, and that's me for sure, you always like to have something in your hand when you're having a conversation on the phone. Well, if you're using your AirPods, the case actually has a little fidget spinner built in, and it's really an attractive look, and it's, again, pretty affordable for something to do for somebody who's maybe a techie in your family who you want to do something different for. It's like $20 for these AirPod cases. But on that note of losing them, I agree. I have that tendency as well. I actually have taken a tile sticker. So, the tile are the little
oh, right.
gadgets for finding. And they have a sticker now that so you don't need to have a loop to hook onto anything. And I've taken that in with the adhesive that it comes with. It's been really good. And I stuck that right on my AirPod case. And that's really helped, because a few times, they end up in the couch cushions or what have you, and you basically can ring that tile from your phone, and it'll start ringing, and it's loud enough you can hear it across the house. So that's come in pretty handy once in a while. So I would recommend that as well. Tile continues to be an important part of me keeping my sanity and keeping track of everything around here.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up, because that's always been my. In fact, they should install those with one, right? A tracker like that.
Well,
I think
Apple's, I think, on their way. Yeah, there's the sticker is a nice little black sticker, and it's really kind of a nice looking thing. It doesn't look obnoxious when you stick it on something, so they're handy. But I know Apple is on their way with developing their AR findable type tech. So they, in the future, expect that you can use Find My iPhone and all that stuff to track down your devices if it's ever lost or stolen. They're taking that to a new level where they're trying to create something that will compete directly with Tile. And that would be that, basically, imagine you have something in the Apple ecosystem that you have lost, and that could probably be anything at some point, where they would allow you to put a sticker on it or what have you. But the things that it's embedded in, you would be able to hold your phone up, look through it, and it's going to be pointing in your house where to go. So it would know it's 50 meters away and it's this direction. So you could basically use AR through looking through your phone to go find your device. It's to give you a real kind of hands-on idea of what that would look like. It's going to be something similar to that, using their technology. I know they've been working on that. That's going to be pretty cool once they get that perfected.
Very cool. Any other cool gifts that we need to be aware of?
Oh, tons of stuff. But, if you're looking for a video doorbell, I know people have had issues with Ring in the past with security. And of course, they're working hard to keep that fixed. But, I have Skybell, which has been really good. But another good alternative is Arlo. Arlo makes a lot of cameras. They're good about that. And they have a $150 option that's a good alternative. So if you're in the market, keep in mind, it is a wired doorbell, and I would recommend anything that you see that's not wired. You're just going to deal with more connectivity issues. So I recommend, paying a little more and getting the one that's hardwired into your house. You're going to have more luck with that, but it's a good alternative. I have this love-hate relationship with Sonos. I have a lot of their products, but I feel like I end up talking about them. And so I did a little research on a good alternative to. There's a good deal on the Sonos Move right now, and I can't deny that that's a great speaker, but a good alternative to that speaker would be the Bose portable speaker. Very comparable in terms of quality and portability and all that stuff. Again, keep in mind, there's tons of Bluetooth speakers out there that are fantastic for on the go, and they're going to be really cheap, and they're really good. But if you're looking for bigger sound, maybe for that home theater we're talking about, where you want to bring a speaker out and actually the whole family can hear it, you're going to want something a little bigger than these little portable ones for the beach. So this Bose portable is, they're more expensive, $350. The Sonos Move similar, it's like now down to like 200 or 300, I think. But those are going to work for that theater situation. When you have everybody around, you can crank it up and everyone can hear it. So that's how I use mine, and it's great.
I'm not gonna lie, man. For that amount of money, I would rather buy a VR headset. I'm just saying.
You've got a point. Yeah, I mean the Quest 2 is really in that range.
$299 now.
Yeah, and you get a heck of an experience. And keep in mind, for people who aren't that familiar, they have hand tracking now. So though it comes with controllers so that you can do certain things, it'll actually see your hands, and you can basically freely move in a space that's defined. You create a space so you can walk around. It's really remarkable what you can do with these standalone headsets. And there's really amazing ones that are hooked up to a PC, but these are standalone where you're not hooked up to a computer, so you have the freedom to move. I have a kickboxing gym in my garage that we created during the pandemic, but I did do VR boxing the other night, just sampling with this Oculus, and I'm like, oh my gosh, this is really cool. It feels like this guy's actually coming at me.
Really? Oh, are you sore?
Well, I get more sore from hitting the real heavy bag outside, but
I think they need to do one where it can see, you could bring the bag in, and then the bag is the one that you're actually hitting, right? I was thinking about this the other day. They could do that in certain gyms when it's safe to go back, and you can have like a bunch of them around you, and then it knows you're in the space, and so every time you hit, you actually hit the bag. But you know what I mean?
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, as you're seeing with your headset, it's endless possibilities with the experiences in terms of whether it's active things like that, where you're engaged with your space, the virtual space, or passive, like you're talking about with movies. The bottom line, they're getting more comfortable. They're not this burdensome thing that's heavy or anything. And the quality is remarkable in terms of feeling like you're really immersed there. So VR is and AR are just blowing up in terms of the really cool experiences. It's still fresh, right? Like we talked about some of the apps on there. There's still $20-$30 for some of the really good apps. Well, if you go back in the smartphone days, remember when we were paying for apps, that now are free, and they probably have an in-app purchase and those kinds of things. But this will evolve, and there's going to be more and more things developed in the next even 2 to 3 years that will really change the landscape of virtual reality.
Yeah, Maria's saying Alexa finds my phone 3 times a day for me. So there you go.
Yes, that works too.
I didn't know you could do that. I didn't even know that's a hack. I didn't know.
Yeah, you can actually use it to find. Oh, see, you woke up mine, so she's talking to me now in my room. But
Alexa, listen to KMET 1490 AM. There you go. We need another listener.
Yeah, but you can actually embed Tile into that smart speaker, and she will find things for you too. But there's a variety of ways. So yeah, you can just yell into the air and find things in your house. So it's an amazing.
Joel, thank you for spending time with us. I know we ran a little overtime on this, but it's always fun to talk tech with you. Have a great day, and give the love to the family, okay?
Yeah, thank you. Will do. Take care.
Joel at Prevost Partners. If you have a question for him, it's Tech Talk with Joel. Use the hashtag, tweet him, Facebook him, message him, and we got much, much more. We got to take a quick break. We'll be right back right after these messages. Stay tuned. Is our next guest ready to go, Jesse, or?
No one has called yet.
Okay, I saw there was a delay, and I was like, did he forget us?
No, I had a different window set up for a different show.
Got it. You weren't paying attention to us. That's what it was. I feel so used.
I was listening to Joel and you guys talk.
I feel so used. I see you chatting in the chat room. Don't make it like I have another window getting to another show. I saw you chat in the chat room. Shoot, I'm on to you. You can't hide from me. I'm watching the chat room. I'm having a conversation with Joel, and I'm trying to pull in the graphics all at the same time, dude. I've got like multiple hats here. I'm like, well, where's the delay? Where did Jesse go? Because I didn't have you on screen, so I was like, what's going on? All right, let's see. Maria says, nice doorbell. Let's see. Freddie says, morning, Jesus. Isn't it great? I get to spend time with Jesus every morning.
So when Joel was talking about the Tile product, I recalled a funny story I saw on TikTok. This woman, she wanted to know where her boyfriend was going. So she put a tile on him. And she found out where he was going. I think it was his ex-girlfriend's house.
Oh, yeah.
So I was like, Dang.
It's a great way to find out where you're. They have special ones that you could put on the car. Don't think I haven't thought about it, but I haven't had a reason to think about that. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But it's not that hard to track your. Like I'm saying, don't bother cheating. You might as well tell your lady, hey, we need to break up. You know,
Right?
there are so many ways to track your cheater. It's not even funny. I never want to talk about that because I feel bad sometimes, but it's a thing. There's so many ways to track. I mean, I don't know what part is like legal or not legal, but if you're cheating, I mean, you know what I mean? I'm not propagating that people keep tracking each other. You should trust each other. But that's all I'm going to say about that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the phone has tracking. You like it has, share your location. Do you know about that?
Yeah, I do that all the time.
Yeah, share your location. I'm like, I don't care if you know where I'm at. I used to share my location all the time with, back in the day.
20 seconds.
Because I'm like, if something happened, especially with your kids, you want to know where they're at, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Put it on their backpacks.
Yeah. If you got nothing to hide, that's fine. Which I never had anything to hide. So there you go.
10 seconds.
Mara says Google Maps has a nice tracker. iPhone too.
It does.
We're all thinking about
2 seconds.
You know what? Don't be in a relationship. You have to track them. That's all I got to say.
Exactly.
Welcome back. Yes, it is the morning show here on ABC News Radio KMET 1490 AM. We're talking about Tile and the tracking capability of the tracker, which, look, if you're in a relationship and you're kind of wondering, I think there's privacy settings that you probably should want to care about before you start doing that. But hey, no truth to the rumor. I'm sure a lot of people have done it, right, Jesse?
Wait, did what? Tracking somebody?
Yeah.
No. The only thing that you like, if you're tracking me, I would be like, how many fast food places is he hitting up within a week's time or something? I don't know.
I think God tracks us all the time, right? He's like, oh, I see where they're going with this, right? See, I'm just saying, right? We get tracked all the time. We don't even know it. But I say, if you're going to cheat on your significant other, you should let them know ahead of time. Because there's so many ways to track you, I mean, if you could track your device, which I really do appreciate. Sorry, getting a little fumbled here. But, you should be able to track somebody without them knowing. Now, I will say this. I used to do this back in the day, and I would make sure that the iPhone was set to be able to share with my significant other, because I'd be like, worst case event, if there's a situation that happens and I'm stuck in LA or somewhere, or you're stuck, let's know where we're at. But we both knew where we were at and where we were going, so there was never a question about that. But it's called safety among your family, and you could do that with your iPhone. There's ways to do it, and let them know, right? Now, if you suspect your significant other is cheating, you know what? You could hire an investigation service, or you could put a tile on them, and there you go. All right, people, I've got to take a quick break. I'll be right back with more right after these messages. Stay tuned. Hey, Jesse, can you ask the next guest if she has to be off at a certain time? All right. For those of you tuning in, this is our behind the scenes. Let's go to the social media chat room. Sorry, I've been a little MIA here when we have live guests to try to make sure everything's happening all at once. Let's see. Stephanie Reed says, hello, happy editing this glorious day for today's awesome busy day ahead. Bobby says, good morning, Earthlings. Katya Wunderland says, hello, everyone, with the kissy emoji. Thank you. We appreciate the kisses. Keep them coming. Bobby says, VR Scout podcast, Meerkat. Yeah, that's all pretty cool stuff. Meerkat, I remember Meerkat. Meerkat actually got, I don't know, are they still around? I remember it was Periscope and Meerkat for a long time. Hey, Jesse, is she able to, or does she have to be off at a certain time?
She did not say anything about a time limit, but she's ready to go.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Because I just want to know, because I have a feeling the conversation, futurists are amazing. They can tell you what's going to happen almost with like a certain degree of confidence, and you're like, whoa. The last time I had a futurist, I think it was about 3 or 4 years ago, and they were talking about how China would become not just a superpower, but they had so much like all the power in the world to where everything was going there with China.
Interesting.
And especially with energy, because they're very ahead on energy, right? Granted, they cause a lot of pollution, but how there would be such a need for energy there because of the way it was bustling at the time.
Yeah. $50 seconds.
All right, thank you. Yeah, but she talks about a lot of stuff. Climate change, tariff wars, terrorism, immigration, nuclear disarmament, all this stuff I want to discuss a lot more of. So you understand why I'm like, I want to see how long I can have with her. Like,
I gotcha. 20 seconds.
All right, thanks. And then she talks about AI and predictive and analytics, which is a very interesting subject. Very interesting. Even Google has predictive analysis based on what people search. Did you know that?
No, I did not. 2 seconds, and we're about to start.
Crazy. That's right. It's the morning show here on ABC News Radio, KMET 1490 AM. Joining our live stream audience there, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Periscope TV. Don't forget to check us out on the Alexa, wherever you're listening. Just listen and say, I like to listen to KMET 1490 AM. Joining us right now is somebody that I know I want to be friends with for life. I'm telling you right now, she knows a lot about everything. She's an acclaimed technology and science futurist. I'm talking about Rebecca Costa. Good morning. Welcome to the show, Rebecca.
Good morning. How are you?
Oh, Rebecca, I'm great now because I think finally we could talk about stuff I've only theorized about, but I think you can bring it full circle. And I'm talking specifically about things that are happening right now and the path that we're on. I think so many people are focused on the moment that we're in. They don't understand where we potentially are going. Where do you think we're going just in a general sphere, like in the next 3 to 4 years?
Well, the first thing I want to address probably, and is important to everyone listening is the pandemic. I get literally hundreds and hundreds of emails every day asking me, is this the new norm? Are we going to see a bunch of viruses, that shut down entire economies and that scientists can't get their arms around? And the first thing that I want to let people know, and I think this is really a great service that your program provides, is that it is extremely rare that a virus jumps from an animal to a human. Our immune systems are so robust that if you think about all the germs that an infant puts in their mouth, if you've ever had kids, they just pick everything up and put it in their mouth. And it's one of the reasons that the human race has survived and proliferated on the planet so well, is that we have an immune system like no other. So it's very, very rare that a virus or a disease will jump from an animal to a human. But even rarer than that is the ability of a virus to be transmitted from that human that comes in contact with an animal to another human. That almost never happens without having the animal intermediary. So while it's rare for diseases to jump from animals to human, it's even much more rare for it to go from a human to a human. So we don't see these pandemics very often, and we're not likely to see a lot more of them happen in the future. So I think it's important for people to have that perspective. This isn't going to happen more frequently than it has happened in the past.
Well, I do have a question on this. And, as you probably already know, or you do the science and the technology of it, viruses mutate. Let's just take a regular cold or flu virus, right? Flu viruses mutate all the time. The question of the day is this currently, when it does go from human to animal and then back into human, does it have a propensity to mutate? And if so, are the vaccines that they're coming out with able to address all of them, or do we have to wait and see? What's your thought on that?
Well, you bring up a very, very important point, and that's the point about the vaccines. When you get a flu vaccine, we're basically rolling the dice. We're trying to immunize you against the flus that we have predictive computer models that tell us are most likely to spread and spread quickly. But we're not immunizing you against all flus. We're just taking a really educated guess as to what flus we should try to immunize you against. In the same way, these vaccines that come out, we now have identified somewhere in the neighborhood of around, let's say, 17 new lineages or mutations of the original COVID virus. And these vaccines are not going to catch all of them. Some of them are more aggressive than the original. And it's not likely the vaccine will be able to take all of them. So there's a misunderstanding, I think, with people thinking, once I get the vaccine, I can't get any of the mutations or lineages of COVID.
Right.
What I tell people is that the vaccine is another very, very strong layer of protection, but it is not 100%. It cannot protect you from some of the mutations which the vaccine was not designed. So if it's the run-of-the-mill first version, version 1.0 of the coronavirus, you're probably protected.
Right.
But if it's some of the later, more aggressive lineages, no. And my big worry is that people relax and they don't think they need face masks and they don't have to social distance. My advice to everyone is, even if you do get the vaccine, and you will have to take 2 doses of it, that's important. If you take 1 dose and you have a kind of a flu-like reaction, you have soreness, achiness, or whatever, and you don't go back for that second dose, you've accomplished nothing. But even if you do go get the 2 doses, you still need to wear a mask and social distance until we can get the numbers way, way, way down.
And Rebecca, I just saw, and I don't think it's going to fly very well, but they said that you're going to have to be able to carry a card around which shows like that you've been immunized against this. I think that's a fallacy because it's like we just talked about. And honestly, I thought we were at 8 different strains. The fact that we were at 17, I had no idea about it. I appreciate you. If you're just joining us, we're talking to Rebecca Costa, who has a couple of books, one On the Verge, which already is a bestseller. You can check it out right now. A lot of very interesting information there. Also with her follow-up book on that as well, the latest, The Watchman's Rattle, a radical new theory of collapse. Obviously, Rebecca, I actually want to keep you for the whole half hour. I don't know how much time you have or how many people you got to talk with. How much time do you have for us?
I'm fine. Yeah, they allocated a half an hour. I didn't know that, but my bookers have scrambled around, so you have me as long as you need me.
Even better. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. I want to regroup on this because I have questions for you that need to be answered, and I think you have the answer. And it's more than just COVID. I want to talk about the future and where we're going because I feel, let me put it this way. If I were the president of the United States of America, I would have you and 20 other futurists and technologists in the same room to say, okay, where do we go from here? Does that make sense? So at least it's just you and I for now.
That is exactly what we need to do, because otherwise we're simply reacting. And as we've discovered with this pandemic, having a reactive strategy is too slow and too late. These things, they exponentiate too quickly in order to respond. So what we have to do is get out ahead of these problems. And thankfully, we have such good predictive analytics. We know what kinds of problems exponentiate, how fast they move, where they move, what the outcomes are. And so we have the ability now to forecast in a way that we never had before in human history.
All right, Rebecca Costa, everybody. She's going to be with us. We've got to take a quick break. We'll be right back right after these messages. Stay tuned. All right, if you're just joining us, this is one of those discussions I've been wanting to have for a very long time. I always say, involve yourself with the smartest people out there, and get immersed in all the information, because I've pulled up enough information on my own, but I'm going to be the first one to admit I don't know everything about everything. Rebecca knows a lot about everything and then some, so much so I think people need to start listening. Okay. So I hope this goes down as one of those like record-breaking interviews that we do. And I want to keep her as long as possible because I feel there are certain discussions that need to be had. And look, if you're just joining us, you can go check out her book as well, which The Watchman's Rattle, a Radical New Theory of Collapse, right there, Rebecca Costa. And support her and go check her out on social media as well. She's on let me bring up her website. I think it's her name. It's very simple. Rebecca Costa. Yeah, Costa. Okay. And this woman is a powerhouse. She's a powerhouse for a reason. And this is a type of discussion I think we all really need. I think, honestly, if the president of the United States of America, whether it be Trump and or Biden, you move forward with the country, you got to get futurists in on this that understand where we are with technology. And Rebecca's one of my new favorite friends forever. Hopefully, I don't know. She's probably hard to get a hold of. But so I'm going to take advantage of the moment that we have her right here, right now, because we got to have these discussions because somebody, I hope, in the administration listens and says, hey, by the way, they got some good ideas here, okay? Because she's talking about the reality of COVID and the reality of the vaccines that other people they don't even pay attention to. But when you throw in some hard science, some hard data, and some hard technology at the facts, you go, oh, okay, I get it now. Right, Jesse? Don't you feel a little smarter for having heard that?
Oh, yeah, most definitely. 30 seconds. How many strains of COVID did you guys say there were?
17.
Good Lord.
But now it doesn't mean in every single area. It just means like around the world. But if somebody travels from like Zimbabwe to here, now you got a new strain that you have to worry about. You understand?
Gotcha.
Yeah. And she's more cautious than like inflammatory, which I like. It's like, hey, how do we deal with this? Okay.
5 seconds.
All right. Thanks.
Coming back.
Welcome back. Yes, it is the morning show here on ABC News Radio, KMET 1490 AM. We have a very interesting guest, Rebecca Costa. It's rare that we get guests like this, which are so smart and so ahead of the game. This woman, I don't know how far in advance she thinks, but I will say this. We got Rebecca Costa with us. Good morning. Welcome to the show, Rebecca. Welcome back.
Thank you.
Now, Rebecca, I do have a question, though. At what point did you say, I'm going to be a futurist and or technologist, and I'm just going to start thinking ahead of the game? And then you see certain things happen. You go, I talked about it. How come, but nobody listened to me?
No, that's a difficult question. I'm an alleged global expert on fast adaptation in high failure rate environments. But I remember one day telling my father that, and he said, well, I looked online and there weren't any jobs for that position. And he says, I saw accountants, dental assistants, but no expert on fast adaptation in high failure rate environments. So what does that mean? That simply means that in highly complex environments, failure occurs very, very rapidly. And it happens too fast for you to be able to adapt on your feet. So what you have to do is you have to use strategies to pre-adapt, if you will. You have to be able to look at what the probable outcomes are in advance and then prepare yourself. And you find more and more that those organizations, governments, companies that are doing that are adapting in advance of, if you will, before the fact. That's the only way you can survive sudden change, is you have to have the mechanisms in place to be able to move very, very swiftly.
I'm glad you brought that up. It reminds me of a movie. I can't remember the name of it, but it had to deal with, I think it was called Martian. And in the moment, granted, it's just a movie about Mars, but I mean, we're going to Mars. It's obvious, right? So, the moment something happens on a planetary life, you got to react like right there. And I remember, I think the theory of the end of the day of that movie really was, you have to be able to be calm, collected, and work with the information that you have in the moment that you have it. But it would be great, I feel, if you have like a foresight knowledge of things that you go, well, if we kind of realize where science is going in our technology, if this adapts at this rate, and I think your mind never stops thinking, right? How many hours do you have to sleep a night? 2, 3?
Well, I don't sleep much at night, but that's always been a chronic case for me. But let's take that movie that you saw, whatever the title of it was. Let's bear in mind that, the laws of physics seem to be holding up as we get further and further out in the universe. So, from that standpoint, as we react to things, we have the ability to react to them very logically, and also to be able to predict what the likelihood of a positive outcome is using very sophisticated computing models that work much faster than the human brain. So if you think about it, we're becoming more and more reliant on computers to make the best probable calls on our behalf.
Well, are you talking about quantum computing or?
Well, not necessarily even quantum computing, just smart devices. I mean, think about it. You go outside and maybe you run into your neighbor and he says, hey, you ought to grab a jacket. It's going to rain later today. And then you walk inside your house and you say, Alexa, what's the weather forecast? And she says, it's not going to rain till midnight. So you're going to trust your neighbor, or you're going to trust your smart device? Well, we're in this very weird situation where we trust what Alexa is telling us more than what our spouse tells us. I mean, how many arguments between, husbands and wives have been settled by Alexa?
I agree with you. Although there's some people that are smarter than even technology, I've noticed. It's almost like there's the super brain connected to the spiritual brain. I don't know if you believe in that, but
I'm not really sure about that. I mean, people give me a really bad time, but this about the fact that I trust machines much more than I trust humans, and the reason for that is that we're burdened by Paleolithic emotions. And we have motives and objections, and instincts and things that, get in the way of making the best decision many times. You see that amongst politicians, there'll be an optimal solution that could cure a problem. And by the way, in case anyone's wondering, we have solutions to every problem that plagues humanity. Make no mistake. Either in science or in technology, we can cure every single problem, social problem we have. So it doesn't boil down to have we invented a solution. It's the fact that, as the famous naturalist Edward O. Wilson said, we have Paleolithic emotions, medieval institutions, and godlike technology. That's the current condition of humanity today. So, if you were to ask me, would I rather have a machine make a decision? Absolutely.
Yeah, I as long as it doesn't get self-aware and then create its own language, so you go, what is it talking about? Is it talking about the creator? Does it want to take out the creator? And look, you talk a lot about nuclear disarmament, and look, we're at a very odd stage with China right now. China, India, of course, having this huge border dispute, questions unresolved really as to who, if in the fact that they go to war, will the U.S. back up India, will Russia back up China? And we're at a very curious state just here on planet Earth. What's your theory of where we're going with that? Or what do we need to do next to be able to step back and say, guys, we're on a human planet together. We're trying to deal with this pandemic. How are we going to get along? And I hope you don't have a godlike presence thinking you're going to be the lone man on the totem pole going through the universe on your own little island.
Well, we have to understand those are the Paleolithic emotions. We're not that far out of the cave from a evolutionary time frame, and we're still tribal. We still become violent. We're still highly, highly irrational. And so, we're always surprised when the political leader gets caught with their pants down or cheating or being inconsistent, going to a restaurant when they're telling everybody else not to. I mean, then we act surprised and shocked. But if you're an evolutionary biologist, as I am, you're not shocked at all. You go, yeah, that's human nature.
Right.
We fail to come to terms with human nature our great hope, and it's the first time in human history since we even came into existence that we have these machines that can guide us to better outcomes if we will listen to them, if we will pay attention to the data and become a more data-focused society rather than an emotional society. We seem to be moving in the direction of elevating and exacerbating the instincts that we share with lower animals rather than rising to the great creatures that we are. We spent 3 million years developing a frontal cortex that allows us to, defer gratification and to make decisions even when they are not to our advantage.
Mm-hmm.
That those are not, you can look at your dog and your dog never offers to share his food. I mean, he has lower instincts, and we're somehow succumbing to those lower instincts as a society, and that does not bode well for us.
Let's talk about something that I think is on everybody's palette right now, which is, okay, we've got COVID, the data's there. It's exasperating a situation, especially for certain age groups and or pretty much all with any type of symptoms. But the question of the day is, how do we move forward in our economy? What are the steps that we should be taking now? What are some things that you think can either, even if government doesn't do it, what is the average person, maybe, business owner and or residential neighborhood? What are some things and tools that you recommend maybe going down the path of not throwing caution to the wind, but still being cautious, not doing full on lockdowns? Because let's face it, this is going to have like a tide effect. There's going to be times where it's very high and very low, very high and very low until, even the amount of vaccines that they're coming out with, it's a drop in the bucket as to how many people will need it in. Will have enough to at least fill at least a quarter of the world, but definitely not all of the world. So this question's got to beg itself. How do we get back to making money? Is there a predictive analysis there?
Predacted. When you have not prepared and put systems in place for what are the probable fast-moving crises, which is always the optimal solution because we can identify what those crises are, whether they're an environmental oil spill, climate change, nuclear warfare, whatever they are. We know what the problems are. It's not like we're naive and don't know what they are, and we know what the outcomes are of those problems. So, the idea is to get out ahead of them. That's the only chance you have.
Right.
Time you're reacting to something that's fast moving like this, you're already on the losing end of it. And as you know, in May, I went public and I got a lot of crap for this, but I went public and said, based on a history of human behavior, we can count on by the end of 2021, 500,000 to 1 million Americans will be dead. And everyone said, oh, that's just way too many. And, we're putting in all these measures. Well, look what happens when you have herky-jerky public policy.
Yeah.
State by state, county by county, we're closed, we're not closed. You can have outdoor dining. No, you can only do takeout. Nobody, remember after 9/11 in the airports, we had orange, yellow, red, green, signs. And I remember sitting in an airport and they said, we've just gone from orange to, yellow. And I looked at the people sitting next to me and I said, does anybody know what that means? And absolutely no passengers and no airline personnel knew what they meant. What we're doing is we're foisting individual responsibility onto people, and then we're just jerking them around with definitions instead of consistent policy that's very simple and that holds. And what we should have done, and I said this in March of this year, I'm a scientist. I looked at the data and I said, we only have 2 choices here, not 5, not 10. We either overreact or underreact. And the appropriate thing here is completely to overreact. We need to shut down, and some politicians are going to not get reelected because you can't prove that overreacting was the right thing to do. Anytime you overreact, if somebody says you're overreacting, you can't prove that had you underreacted, this would have happened because you've stopped it. So there's no evidence that overreacting was the right decision. But in this case, It was the right decision. I said we should have shut everybody down for 3 weeks, put the military in the street. If you walked out of your house, you would be arrested, and the government should have distributed food, medicines, anything. And think of how much cheaper that would have been. All airports closed. All people coming from other countries closed. If you were an American offshore, too bad. You were going to have to wait out that 3 weeks and then wait till we had a test. That was the sacrifice you would make for your country. Had we done that, we would not be in this second surge, and we're going to see a third surge. And even with the vaccines, I worry that the first person that gets vaccinated and contracts COVID, no one's going to want to get vaccinated after that. And that's going to be one of those lineages that we were talking about earlier.
Well, and I brought this up on the show that I believe it was Taiwan, which hit it very heavy, very fast in January, February, and March, and they have great tracking ability that they basically have had only like minimum no cases almost. And I go, and I agree with you, and I've said this, but people always balk at it. But if you would have not thrown caution to the wind, if there's a fire, you go, hey, let's call the firemen, right? Or you try to put it out if you have the local thing, but you got to hit it hard. I know we're running out of time. I wish we could talk a little bit more. I agree with you on 20 different things that you said and more. I hope we can have you back in the next couple of weeks, because I think we really need to have this discussion a little bit more often. Just get a hold of Kathy and we'll arrange to, because I think this is a really important conversation for people to hear. And I thank you for creating a platform to get the truth out to people. Yeah. And if you're just tuning in, again, go check out her book, The Watchman's Rattle, A Radical New Theory of Collapse. And again, I think if anything, we're not talking about collapsing. We're talking about how to move forward safely, effectively, and let's do the right thing. Right, Rebecca?
That's right. And we can do the right thing.
I agree 100%. Thank you, Rebecca, for spending time with us here on The Morning Show.
Thank you.
All right, Rebecca Costa, everybody. I'm Aaron Michael Sanchez. Make it a great day, whatever you do. Remember, go check out her book. It's in bookstores right now. You can check out one of two different ones, actually, or just get both. On the Verge, that's the other one, and Pretty Smart Lady for the smartest of times. I hope. Okay, bye-bye, everyone. All right, for the rest of you tuning in, I appreciate you. I'm going to say I know that discussion was a pretty heavy one, especially towards the beginning and the end. But I do have questions that I think she has the answer to. And I think, if you got like 5 futurists into the room, they don't just theorize about what's happening. They already know what they have that they can implement right there and then to be able to do the right thing ahead of time. Back in March, her and I were basically singing the same song, which was, this is serious. We got to take it seriously. Let's do the right thing. Let's not be stupid. And if you would have had a leader in the right place at the right time doing that. Now, do I feel that the whole military thing would have been a little too offsetting? I think it would have been offsetting, but I do think that there was a good fine line of saying, never throwing caution in the wind, like, oh, we're going to be good by Easter, right? Because he wants to get reelected. Now, I will say something which oftentimes politicians have a hard time doing, which is they want to get reelected. And she said, well, when people want to get reelected, that causes a problem for the nation. And I agree with that 100%. You have to almost basically be willing to say, I would rather go down doing the right thing than go down doing the wrong thing, right? And unfortunately, I think that's where we're at. So again, if you haven't already checked out her information, go check it out. Rebecca Costa. I want to go ahead and type that in really quick for you guys to see there. And, it's good to surround yourself with people that know more, and or if you read stuff like this, you'll be ahead of the game. And then who knows, you might, come across somebody that's super smart or in political office. You can say, hey, by the way, did you know this, and that? You could implement this, and that very quick by doing this, and this. And they're like, are you going to elect me? Like, oh, come on. I might elect you if, I might, maybe, if that's the thing. But there you go. So at the end of the day, if you focus on humanity and you focus on moving us forward, and I love the fact that she said, there's 3 different tiers of people. There's the very like, mine, right? Very mental mentality of me versus we. I think in order to move forward as a nation and as a world, we have to start thinking about the overall humanity, right? Now, there are a couple things that kind of flagged me, which are like, okay, I don't know that I want a computer completely making the decision, but I think that if you have 20 different people all in the same room that at least say, okay, let's look at what the data says. And oh, by the way, these are people that by far and large want to help the people that they say they serve. Okay. And you could see that in the way they make decisions. It's not always the popular decision. All right. For example, if you could resurrect, I don't know, 3 past presidents to be able to do the right thing, I would resurrect Abraham Lincoln, George Washington, and Theodore Roosevelt. Okay. Get those 3 back. Okay. Put them in the room with 18 other scientists. I don't know, have like an AI reduplicate the way Lincoln would have thought. I don't know if that's a thing. Somebody could probably figure it out, right? And have like a voting mechanism of like, okay, what's the more popular vote here for humanity? No one ever thinks what's the best for humanity. They think what's the best for them in order to serve, right? Very rarely do people think, well, what's the best for the majority out there, right? I've been saying for a long time, when it comes to Black Lives Matter, get the people in there in the White House to have the discussion, bring in all the leaders of all these organizations and our movements, bring them in, have the hard discussion, do it virtually, whatever, have that, do it in a private session and then do a public session and say, look, this isn't going to go away very quick, but let's talk about this because I need you guys safe during coronavirus. Now, it's easier to say in hindsight, but I've said this ever since March as well. She said certain things, which I actually think, and I've recently mentioned this to my mom, I think we're at 500,000 by, honestly, March at the going rate that we're going. But I'm taking into account not just coronavirus said deaths. I believe you have the repercussion of other deaths, which were unnecessary because underworking or understaffed hospitals, understaffed doctors, understaffed staff, which normally would do the right thing if they were thinking clearly, but because they're so pressed, they're so difficult, they're so having a hard time thinking because they're emotionally exasperated, they're just trying to stay alive, they're away from their family members because they want to see their family members, but they can't because they're basically at war with coronavirus, trying to keep the humanity alive. And that's not the time to be a commander-in-chief and be stupid about it, which, let's face it, there's stupidity. It's abounding at every corner in government. All right. I've often said maybe I need to go run for Senate or something. I don't know. This has got to make sense for somebody because we just got to move forward, people. You need leadership in there that can do the right thing. And do I think I can do the right thing? Probably not. But I'm willing to listen. And I'm willing to listen to people like Rebecca. And I'm willing to listen to other people that are smarter than me. I'm not the smartest tool in the tool shed. I just analyze data like she does, but I'm not as smart as her. I would much rather deflect it, go, well, what about this? What about this? What about this? What would you do if this, 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 and this? And then make all the notes and be like, take notes or whatever. Let's have a cause of action. Let's bring in 18 other people, all futurists and technologists. Let's make it happen. Steven Spielberg did that with Minority Report. Very good movie. And he brought in a bunch of people to say, what does the future look like if based on the things that we're doing right now? And he made models based on that. And Minority Report has 3 things that you can see right now. When Tom Cruise does like with the gloves and he does all the switching and everything, that stuff actually exists. I mean, it's not as technologically advanced as is just yet, but that's called a VR device. You put a VR device, and they're doing glasses as well. They could do that, right? I think there's a couple that are out there that they could do like a screen on a glass, right? Technically, but that's right there. And that was before I believe the iPhone and the iPad came out. True. But how did Steven Spielberg figure that out? Oh, that's right. He brought in a bunch of futurists and technologists, which saw where things were eventually going based on the technology they have here and now. Now, certain things you can make advanced and other things you can't make advanced, right? Because of money, time, technology, and or circumstances beyond your control. But if government knew exactly what to focus on, not necessarily for war. I think we're ahead of the game on war. We could take out our enemy and then some. We've got drones. We've got machines that act like humans. We've got all kinds of stuff that can destroy us. But how much stuff do we have there at our advantage to save us? If there were an asteroid coming hurtling to the Earth, which I believe there's one that they're watching very closely, and or 3 actually, currently. What are you going to do to are you going to move the Earth? Or you can't do that. Are you going to move the asteroid? Well, is it going to hit something else? Are you going to blow it up? Are you going to destroy it? I don't know what the answer is. Or are you going to cause more harm by destroying it, and or projectiles all of a sudden? Can you safely, put jets that actually severe it on the course that you want it on so you can monitor it all the time? I don't know. But there's got to be something that can fix that eventuality. And if you could think in that way, I mean, why do you think people are going to Mars? They're going to Mars in the event that we obliterate ourselves here on Earth. If you don't believe me, trust me, there's a reason Elon Musk wants to get to Mars faster, sooner, and on time. He sees where this world is going, and it's going, bleh, right? God forbid an asteroid take us out. What if we take ourselves out through a nuclear holocaust? We're close, people. We are closer than you think. And we have to start asking the serious questions. We have to start asking, what do we do next in the next 3 years? Okay, let's have an action plan to start implementing in the next 3 years that we could do right here, right now. Let's bring in the futurists. Let's bring in the scientists. Let's bring in the biologists. Let's bring in all the people that matter to start saving planet Earth. Well, which do you save first? Do you save planet Earth, or do you save humanity? Or do you save both at the same time? Well, in order to want to save Earth, you got to save humanity. At least get them to the point where they stop hating on one another. Well, how do you do that? Are there certain programs and or things that we just need to kind of be more in tune with and or start evolving our mind? I believe our mind needs to be evolved much more. I know some people don't like that word evolve because it denotes that there is no creator. I believe there is a creator that evolves our mind eventually if we allow him to, or her to, or whatever the spirit is that you believe in. But my point is, our mind has the ability, she talked about the frontal cortex. The brain is a very interesting piece of design work, okay? The way it works and the way it has evolved over time, there's certain parts of the brain that relegate your thinking patterns, okay? There's certain parts of the brain that are evolved in certain people and not in others. Oddly enough, if you look at brain research, some will say, oh, your brain works differently than other people. They can map it through what parts of the brain light up. And some people think differently than others, okay? I would love to see Trump, Biden, I get in the same machine and be like, how does our brain work differently, right? And then see which one has a better thinking strategy than the others. Put them through an IQ test or an emotional test and put 20 different factors in there and then see who all, like at the end of the day, are wanting to save humanity and then vote on that. Is that ahead of its time? It probably is, but I'm sure you could do it. Bring in some brain psychologists, physiologists, and biologists. And then, look, we are such at a time that I told you stem cells can actually, if applied from a pig's intestines into somebody's actual finger and help the regrowth of a finger happen. That's not fake news. That's science. Go research it. That's real news. Now, I know the ethical question is, well, where do you get the stem cells from? Do you get them from an embryo? I'd say no, there's other ways around it. DNA sequencing has evolved to such a degree that, the question really has to beg itself, just because you can doesn't mean you should. And there has to be a question at the end of the day that says, does it help us move forward or does it hinder us in the end? Can you trust man to do that? I say no, obviously. Do you trust your fellow man? No. But you got to trust at least a select few to say, hey, let's watch you do this and let's be ahead of the game so we at least can push people forward. Do I think we need divine intervention? I believe we do. Because at the rate that we're going down a hill that if we don't stop ourselves, we're just going at the end of the day. Wrong, right? I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe humanity has elevated enough to where it just needs to be elevated a little bit more. Now, do I believe science and technology is the answer for everything? I think it's a good majority true. But I think there's some things that we can explain that we need to be able to start having good discussions on, which is thought mentality. She talked about AI or artificial intelligence, not much, but I know that she has that ability because AI can calculate with good probability. Back to Google, humans are a supercomputer in of their own right. If you don't believe me, go watch this very interesting documentary. It was called, I have to look it up on Netflix. I think it was called The Code. And in this, it said, hold on, Code, Netflix. But go check it out. It's on Netflix. Yeah, it's called The Code, I think. Hold on. No, that's my Netflix thing. No, it's not called The Code. It's hold on, let me type in documentary. But what he does is Marcus de Satoy, there you go, examines the mathematical code underlying all of life on Earth and the universe itself. It's a 3-part documentary series. If you go watch that, you'll feel smarter for having done it. Okay, I'm going to bring it up
for divine
right
meaning
here.
in numbers.
Hold on.
12th century.
Whoops. I'm playing it by accident. Hold on. Let me pause it. But it's called The Code. It's a documentary. Go check it out. And in there, what he does is very, some think it's pseudoscience, whatever. But pay attention. There's stuff you don't know that if you pay attention, you'll understand. What he does is he takes a group of people, asks them how many jelly beans are in a jar, and does so by the average, recalculates the average based on the average answer, which some are just guessing, some are doing, and then he repopulates it, I think, in 180 different people, maybe less, and then balances it, and he comes very close to the actual number based on the law of average of all the answers combined, based on the amount of people that actually he polled. To which he goes, well, what is that? Is there a science of a developing mind that somehow we are connected to another source that actually knows more than not? Because if you could create a computer that has the predictive analysis and the ability, where did that source come from? Oh, hello, the human brain, which I always say to futurists and or scientists, don't throw the theory out, but things are put in parallel dimension or multiverse as well. Hey, parallel dimensions exist, and quantum mechanics actually can prove that, but people aren't willing and or ready to discuss that. Plus, they don't know what they're dealing with, because if you open the wrong portal to the wrong dimension, see, now I lost like 20 of you because you're like, oh, now he's talking theory. No, that's actually science and fact. Einstein came up with that way back when, but they're starting to prove this in quantum computing and AI combined. Okay, there's some amazing stuff in science, but the question at the end of the day, we could discuss it all day long. What does that matter if nobody's going to implement it? There's technology right now that can help a human heart, which is too expensive to get currently, and it's only for the very rich and very famous. Okay, how do you make it available for all? It's an amazing world we live in. If we lived in a world, and I know this is pie in the sky mentality, but if we lived in a world that said, you know what, let's forego the cost of it for now. Let's look at doing it right for humanity. Let's take on 5 projects that all investors will say this will help humanity. It's going to cost money. That's fine. We got to go to Mars to escape Earth. It's not for that. We got to go to Mars to become the victors over Mars. No, it's not that either. We got to go find another planet that's habitable in the event that we might kill ourselves. If you don't believe me, doesn't matter. I asked some people, would you want to go to space to save the human race? And I think the majority, including myself, would say no, because I don't want to be the first among many, because the first among many that went into space have lost their lives for it. But are they willing to take that chance? Every single astronaut that's ever gone up into space will answer you in the affirmative of, if I have to die to accomplish this great task, I would rather die at least trying. Those are the heroes of our day. Some have been forgotten, some have been put to the wayside, and some just you forget what they've done. There's a man who went into space. He's a twin of another man. They kept one here on the Earth, and the other they put into space for, I believe, a year, maybe a year and a half, to see what his biology would be living in space for so long. And they've already seen it did a number on him. How can they fix that for future space travelers? Did he give up his life willingly in order to, did he shorten his life? I don't know. But at the end of the day, is he a hero? I say yes. Let me bring him up, actually. Many of you probably don't even know he exists. I mentioned this to my mom, and she was like, I had no idea this happened. I'm going to bring up a picture of the both of them. Let me bring it up first so you can see it. And if you know the story already, these are known as the NASA twins, affectionately called, but I think they shouldn't be called that. Need to be called like heroes of this day and age. These are the two side by side. I mean, they obviously they look different, but they're actually technically biology wise the same as same as you can get, right? So the idea was take twins, keep one on Earth and put the other in outer space and see how his body would react given so much time. Now I'm going to bring up the most recent news article on this. Oh, wow. Okay, here's one from National Geographic, okay? Here's the story. And the headline, this was published just recently, December 2nd, 2020. This is very, very interesting news. We don't really talk about this on the show, but I told you I wanted to focus more on science and technology. Hold on, it's asking me to sign in. I don't want to sign in. Just let me just research. National Geographic. Hold on, I got to put in my email so I can read it. National Geographic, thank goodness. All right, here it is. You have 3 free articles left this month. Oh, thanks. To study aging, scientists are looking to outer space. Space travel induces bodily changes that are remarkably similar to growing old, providing a unique way to boost medical research. It says your bones begin to leak calcium when you go into space, by the way. Your muscles begin to shrivel, the immune system weakens, and arthritis can set in. Poor posture, balance affect how you move about the world, while cataracts and deteriorating eyesight impair how you see it. Heart problems and declining cognitive function eventually set in as people approach the end of their lives. Oh, sorry, that's just normal here on Earth. But it says these symptoms can also be caused by something less common, space travel. Spaceflight influences biology in dramatic ways, and people in space appear to experience the effects of aging faster than people on Earth. Now, scientists have gained a better understanding of space travel's influence on living beings than ever before. A slew of 29 papers recently were published in the journals Cell Reports, iScience, Cell Systems, and Patterns, examined the biological hazards of spaceflight and 56 astronauts, more than 10% of all the people who ever have been to space. The new studies bring us a step closer to identifying the mechanisms underpinning the biological responses to living in space. More than 200 scientists demonstrated that space upends the genes, mitochondrial function, and chemical balances in the cells to trigger a cascade of broader health effects in spacefaring humans and animals. Susan Bailey, who's a radiologist at the Colorado State University, said the entire body is affected because space is such a different and extreme environment. I actually disagree. My theory is because you're closer to gravity, gravity slows you down so much, it actually slows down the process than what happens in outer space due to the fact that you're in weightless non-gravity. It's a theory I've been working on. And or the atmosphere. But I think it's more the gravity because it slows you down. And if you move in a different way, you get what I'm saying? So the health effects associated with spaceflight have several similarities to aging-related disorders such as cancer and osteoporosis. While spaceflight's parallels to aging are a concern for long-term crewed missions, such as those that would be required on a voyage to Mars, the unique space environment also presents a unique opportunity to study the physiology of aging. It's estimated that the heart, blood vessels, bones, and muscles deteriorate more than 10 times faster in space than by natural aging. This means to study the aging process, scientists don't have to wait for their biological subjects to naturally mature on Earth. They can harness accelerated health effects by running experiments on the International Space Station. Time and parallel universe. Trust me, it's a thing. Scientists stress that the symptoms of space travel are not exactly the same as aging, and many changes reverse themselves once people return to Earth, but the comparisons are still useful. Isn't that weird? Like, whoop, whoop, right? Spaceflight is an immersive experience. Those are my sound effects. I'm having fun with this. Spaceflight is an immersive experience that spares no traveler, while aging happens to every Earthling, whether we like it or not. As such, life in space is a good model for understanding aging as a chronic process. The barren otherworld of outer space could even reveal new ways to protect ourselves against the process of growing old. Because you get faster in time, get it? So, test your face cream out there before you come back here, get it? Let's see. I'm going to scroll down because there's a lot of technical mumbo jumbo, which I know a lot of you are going to be like, what are we talking about? But I'm going to talk about this. Biological chips. Scientists are shifting to a new research platform that models human physiology better than animals. Tissue chips. What? This is not science. This is science fiction. No, it's real science. These USB stick-sized gadgets contain chambers and channels of cells bathed in liquid sustenance. Tissue chips typically host a concoction of cells representative of a particular human organ. Sorry, what? Fluid flow in the chips is able to reproduce the body's inner shear and stretch forces, and a chip's interior walls provide anchor sites for cells to arrange and grow on. Essentially, tissue chips behave like a microcosm of the internal human body. Sonia Schrepfer, an immunologist at the University of California, San Francisco, led a collaborative effort to launch the first tissue chip experiment to the ISS in 2018 under the Tissue Chips in Space initiative by the National Center for Advancing Translational Sciences. Schrepfer's research aims to shed light on aging in the immune system and whether a waning immunity can be rejuvenated. If space sets off premature aging, then perhaps bringing cells back from space turns off or reverses the deterioration. If you understand why it's reversible, you find that mechanism, you can switch that on in patients. Gravity is the answer. Scott Kelly experienced a reversal in telomere lengthening after returning to Earth, and other effects of spaceflight, such as altered gene expressions and bone loss, also disappear after astronauts return home. If similar changes are observed in her tissue chips, Schrepfer's team intends to hunt for a molecular trigger. Identifying the proteins and genes involved could aid researchers in developing reverse aging treatments for senior citizens and patients with abnormally sluggish immune systems. The researchers are on the chase as they prepare for a second round of ISS experiments launching in March of 2021. They end with this. Many of these therapies have been inspired by efforts to boost humans' adaptability to space, which could in turn address many of the aging-related diseases that plague the terrestrial masses of humanity. Ultimately, the studies of space adaptations and anti-aging treatments cross-fertilize each other. In the meantime, there's no shortage of astronauts willing to brave the occupational hazard of space exposure. Humankind's fascination with space will never grow old, and the astronauts on the ISS probably find joy in their work despite the health risks. She says most of the astronauts look like they're just having a grand old time floating around, even though it's, of course, a lot of work. It's a passion and joy for them, and I can't help but think that might help maintain their telomere length too. Telomeres, it's a thing. Seriously, look it up. It's an interesting bit of science, biology-wise, that happens in people. Mitochondrial, I know you're thinking, Star Wars? No, that's a real thing, people. But there you go. Okay, so there's a lot of science to be had on this show, which I want to discuss, but I don't want to bore half of the people in the room. I don't know if you find this interesting and or enjoyable, but if you do, add your comments to the social media chat room right now. Diana Carbajal says, peace for humanity, right? Let's see. Stephanie Reed says, I think we need the Terminator of Arnold Schwarzenegger right now, especially he has experience in health and wellness. He does, actually. He's smart. I think he knows stuff we only ventured to know. Let's see. Quantum physics. If you don't know anything about quantum physics, it's a very interesting subject. Some feel it's a little too ahead, and I feel it's a very dangerous thing that we're strutting along the lines of, because what you don't understand is the quantum world. If you don't understand the quantum world, quantum physics actually interacts with other parallel dimensions and or other timelines. Technically true. If I were in the room of people that understood what the heck I was talking about, they'd actually say, yeah, we get it. This is what we've already theorized. Look at the information. Here's the data. Check this out. This is data here and here and here. And they'd be like, oh, yeah, that's the thing. Don't muck it up, because you'll muck up the lining of our universe with another universe before you're ready. So you got to meet with the right people to understand why you're not ready, number one. And number two, that you're actually dealing with physics that you don't understand. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. There's some things that you guys are well ahead of that you shouldn't be investigating just yet because you don't understand what problems you can cause. Okay? It's a thing. Look it up. Ronaldo says, good afternoon. Edgar says, good morning. Awesome. Let's see. Algenia says, if Elon and I take a ride in the sports car in space, heck yes. They give me a tip and stay there a short time. I'll build my body up. 6-month calcium and other minerals. Space slows down the circulation and you lose bone and muscle mass. Do the math. Key. We build the body up first. Well, that makes sense. She says, my IQ was 161 in the 3rd grade. Well, that makes a lot of sense. But at the end of the day, you really have to ask yourself, and all scientists, biologists and marine biologists and people of all different sorts are often so unregulated. They go out there and they discover things. And before they go the next step, they forget to ask themselves a very important question. Just because I could doesn't mean I should. And I think at the end of the day, before you have people that are very smart, very fast, and very like genius smart, you have to say these 3 things. Is it going to help humanity in the long run? Will it help line up my silver pocket? Meaning that's all I'm in it for, which, hey, no truth to the rumor. You got to make money somehow. But is it going to cause problems for the rest of humanity in the end? And technically, there's certain institutions that don't want that information out just yet. So how are you going to do that safely, effectively, and proactively, right? And the last question is, just because I could doesn't mean I should. All right. So ask yourself those questions, and I think you'll be ahead of the game with science and technology and or other sciences not even yet heard of. In fact, there's some technologies that are really ahead of its time. That's all I'm going to say about that. All right, people, I appreciate you. Make it a great day, whatever you do. Remember, life is worth living. Live it well, and I'll see you next week right here on The Morning Show. Make it a great day, whatever you do. And remember, go have fun out there, okay? It's the weekend, but stay safe. Bye-bye, everyone.